Hello class, we're Team 0% Risk. My name is Sean Rock, and beside me is Kendra Anderson, Louise Quinesh, and Chelsea Gilliland, and today we'll be presenting to you organizational culture. And under organizational culture, we will be covering the components of culture, the types of cultures, the attraction framework, the stages of socialization, and the methods used to socialize new employees. Hope you enjoy. So let's begin by defining organizational culture. Organizational culture is defined as the shared social knowledge within an organization regarding the rules, norms, and values that shape the attitudes and behaviors of its employees. This transfer of knowledge might be through explicit communication, simple observation, or other less obvious methods. And employees learn most important aspects of culture through other employees. In the next slide, we will be presenting to you a video of Google's culture. Hope you enjoy.
Google is kind of a unique company for me and I think for a lot of people that work there. What Google does is it allows you a fantastic environment to be innovative and to get your product developed really quickly.
It is a very different structure than the rest of the engineering community.
We always really try to avoid bureaucracy so that people can really do what makes sense in their project.
One thing that's great about Google is that you have a lot of autonomy over your product and its directions.
We're encouraged to work on whatever we think is important. Often the best ideas come from employees.
At Google, if you come in your first week and you have a good idea on how things should be done, and people agree with you, in that first week you can start making those changes.
The biggest resource is definitely the people.
It's very young and very vibrant.
This amazing combination of a corporate campus and a university playground. There's a lap pool, there are pool tables, there are mini kitchens throughout the campus so that you can get a bite to eat whenever you want to. There's a dry cleaning facility, there's a laundry facility. You can bring your dogs to work.
We have yoga, we have Pilates.
I love massages, I'm a spa queen.
Let me mention the food.
Food here, by the way, is great.
I like to sleep in, and so I'll come in around 11 or so, and that's just fine. I get my work done, and everyone's very cool with that.
Slice Cafe. Slice I like a lot because they do like organic foods and it's a nice place to hang out. I'm actually meeting with my designer here today and we're talking over some of the designs that we're working on, and we like this place because it's very casual and it's kind of a laid back atmosphere for us.
It's really a great place to work.
So why is it that organizational cultures differ? Well, there are three components: observable artifacts, basic underlying assumptions, and espoused values.
Observable artifacts are manifestations of an organization's culture that employees can easily see or talk about. There are 6 major types of artifacts: symbols, physical structures, language, stories, rituals, and ceremonies. Symbols are images used to convey a message, such as a corporate logo or employee uniforms. Physical structures involve the organization's buildings and office designs, like whether a CEO chooses to have an office or not, as well as if the organization chooses to have an open public office or not. Language reflects the jargon, slang, and slogans used within the walls of an organization. Stories are anecdotes, accounts, legends, or myths passed down in the organization. Rituals are the daily or weekly planned routines that occur within an organization. And lastly, ceremonies are formal events, which are generally performed in front of an audience of members in the organization. The second component of organizational culture are basic underlying assumptions, which are taken for granted beliefs and philosophies that are so ingrained that employees simply act on them rather than questioning the validity of their behavior in a given situation. These assumptions represent the deepest and least observable part of a culture and may not be consciously apparent even to organizational veterans. A company's hidden beliefs are most likely to dictate employee behavior and affect employee attitudes. This aspect of organizational culture is also the most long-lasting and most difficult to change. The third component of organizational culture are espoused values, the beliefs, philosophies, and norms that a company explicitly states. This can range from a company's vision or mission statement all the way to verbal statements made to employees by executives and managers. Organizational cultures are classified along two dimensions: solidarity and sociability. Solidarity indicates group members think alike and act alike. Sociability refers to how friendly employees are to each other. These dimensions can both be either high or low, depending on the different culture types.
Specific culture types. Customer service culture focuses on the service quality. Google has a 90% customer satisfaction rate among their advertising customers. Safety culture is focused on reducing accidents and errors in the workforce. Safety is practiced by Google by doing background checks on employees prior to hiring, providing security training, dedicating teams specifically to security and privacy, and conducting internal audits, as well as using resources such as compliance specialists to oversee their safety and privacy systems. Diversity culture focuses on having a diverse workforce in a company. Diversity is key to Google's success because building products that work for everyone need to include perspectives from various backgrounds. Creativity culture is focused on the quantity and the quality of creative ideas in an organization. Google is the epitome of a creativity culture. They promote a stress-free work environment for their employees. They empower them to think outside of the box, and they bring in smart, outspoken people. Google has set the standards for creativity culture in the workforce. ASA Framework. ASA Framework states that employees will be attracted to organizations whose culture matches their personalities. Organizations select these employees if their personalities fit the culture. There are sometimes candidates who are not selected due to their lack of fit with the company and may lead to attrition. While most employees find Google to be a desirable place to work due to benefits and creativity freedom, Google looks for a certain Googliness in their employees. Lazo's box states that they look for attributions like having fun, a certain dose of intellectual humility, a strong measure of consciousness, comfort with ambiguity, and evidence that you've taken some courageous or interesting path in your life. When you add these all up, you've got a certain Googliness. If you do not pass their Googliness test, you may not be a good fit for Google. Socialization, a process in which employees learn the social knowledge that enables them to understand and adapt to the organization's culture. Some of the organizational socialization include goals and values, performance proficiency, language, history, politics, and people. For Google, they value their people. Their employees are treated to free gourmet food options, including sushi bars and espresso stations. Employees also have access to gyms, shower facilities, video games, on-site childcare, and doctors. Google also provides extended maternal and paternal leave with 75% of full pay and offers $500 for takeout meals for families with newborns. These perks create a place where employees feel valued. Along with that, Google has an interesting theory. They would rather run a company where they are moving quickly and doing too much, as opposed to being too cautious and doing too little. Act fast, deal with the consequences later. To promote new ideas, Google encourages all engineers to spend at least 20% of their time working on their own ideas. Along with this, Google is not a company where decisions are made by a senior person in charge and then implemented top down. It is common for several small teams to attack each problem and for employees to try to influence each other using rational persuasion and data. These are just some of the organizational socialization culture features that Google has to offer. Next, we will go over the 3 stages of socialization: anticipatory stage, encounter stage, understanding and adapting stage.
The first stage is the anticipatory stage. In that stage begins the moment a potential employee hears the name of an organization and develops an image of what it would be like to work for the given company. The majority of information acquired during this stage occurs during the recruitment and selection processes prior to joining the organization. The second stage is the encounter stage, which begins the day an employee starts work. During this stage, new employees compare the information they learned as outsiders during the first stage. The information learned in the 2 stages should be similar to allow the employees to have a smoother time adjusting within the organization. If the information learned in the 2 stages do not quite match up, it is referred to as reality shock. An example of reality shock is when an employee says, "Working at this company is not nearly what I expected it to be." Research shows that as many as 1/3 of new employees leave a company within the first 90 days because of unmet expectations. The main goal of socialization is to minimize reality shock. The third and final stage is understanding and adaptation. During this stage, newcomers come to learn the content areas of socialization and learn the norms and expected behaviors of the organization. It is not a process that happens overnight. Some say that the last stage never truly ends as the company's culture continues to change.
Next, we will be discussing mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions can impact an organization's culture, and this is due to the new culture being created from the two cultures clashing. The problem is, we just don't know what the culture will look like after the merger or acquisition, and they also rarely result in the strong culture managers are hoping for after the merge. What the new culture will resemble is a function of both the strength of the two cultures involved in the merger and how similar they are to each other. Google currently leads one of the world's best corporate cultures in terms of how it's treating its employees. And this is due to schedule flexibility, freedom for creativity, a fun environment, a friendly atmosphere, freedom for innovation, a focus on employee satisfaction, and the company's espoused value, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Now, we have some questions. The first question, how do you think culture impacts an organization? Secondly, what organizational culture do you believe is ideal? And last, why do you think cultures differ so broadly across organizations?
Organizational culture is defined as the shared social knowledge within an organization regarding the rules, norms, and values that shape the attitudes and behaviors of its employees. We discuss why organizational culture differ due to the observable artifacts, underlying assumptions, and espoused values. We then discuss specific culture types that affect organizational culture, such as customer service culture, safety culture, diversity culture, and creativity culture. We defined culture strengths as when employees agree about the things that are supposed to happen within an organization, and the ASA framework as a theory that potential employees will be attracted to organizations with cultures that match their personality. Next, we describe socialization and the 3 stages that occur the moment the potential employee hears about the organization until the employee leaves the organization. Last but not least, we describe the impact that mergers and acquisitions can have on a company's culture.